Here are all the references that I noticed during Garfield Spotlight in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. First, let's talk about Garfield's forward air. Garfield leaps into the air and hits his opponents with his beloved teddy bear Pookie. Pookie first appeared in October 23rd, 1978. The way Garfield hits with Pookie reminded me of when he does the same thing to Odie for chewing on his friend in January 3rd, 1987. Speaking of Odie, he makes an appearance on Garfield's stage. Hopefully this isn't like that one time Garfield dreamt of Odie and it went horribly wrong. The blue cup of coffee that Garfield drinks at the beginning of the spotlight first appeared in September 30th, 1982. There's a running gag where Garfield will have a different reaction because of the coffee that he drinks. Occasionally, Garfield will point his finger up in the air. Mostly he'll do this to get a point across. Sometimes he'll even do it with his head held up high. Everybody knows that Garfield is known to kick Odie and send him flying. Heck, he's even known to drop kick kids into lakes. However, in the spotlight, Garfield's arms are behind his back. After 12 long years, on October 12, 1990, we finally saw Garfield kick Odie with his arms behind his back. Garfield attacking with a top hat and cane is a reference to the opening of Garfield and Friends. Garfield's pummel animation has Garfield smacking SpongeBob as he holds him. This reminded me of the time Garfield smacks Odie in October 16, 1993. He lies about seeing a mosquito. After Garfield hits his opponents with food, popcorn will appear. Speaking of popcorn, this animation is inspired by Garfield eating a popcorn, only this time, he'll eat the entire bowl. Garfield has a shine where he'll turn into his original 1976 self. Garfield first appeared in a comic strip called John before Garfield got his own comic. In 1983, Garfield got redesigned. For his 25th anniversary, Garfield even saw his old past self. Although Garfield is no stranger to dancing, Garfield's dash attack is based off this dance first seen in the June 6, 1986 comic. Garfield throwing pies can have multiple meanings. In the comics, a sentient force known as Monday will throw pies in his face every Monday. In the mobile game Garfield Defends 2, Garfield throws a pie in a 2D setting. These splurt pies usually target Garfield. The devs even managed to capture how Garfield stops after running. How Garfield eats lasagna is ripped straight from how he does it in the cartoon and comics. Garfield holding a giant piece of meat is a reference to the August 7th, 1980s comic. He's actually hitting his opponent with a giant butchered dinosaur leg. Garfield wears a checkered bib for one of his alts. The first time that we see this alt is in the August 25th, 1985 comic strip. Garfield has his Orange Beard the Pirate Halloween inspired costume from Garfield's Halloween Adventure. The last alt that Garfield wears is a blue sweater. In December 2nd, 1985, Garfield wears a similar sweater that reads, "I hate dogs." Garfield's face being on the sweater might be a reference to his merchandise. Garfield has an animation where he chomps on a large sandwich. Although it's based off this stock image, Garfield does do this in the beginning of the May 30th, 2004 comic strip. In fact, this pose where he's laying down with his legs crossed is another nod to an official art. An example of Garfield doing this in the comics was in November 18th, 1983. Garfield sleeps into a yawn just like he does in the comics. Karen's screen actually says Sheldon on it. This is another reference to Plankton's army. On Rocco's stage, we could see one of the banana agents from the Future Slock episode. Garfield's dabbing back air comes from the November 3rd, 2017 comic. And finally, sometimes Garfield will have a dietary hallucination and see living food. This might be the inspiration behind Garfield's special attack. And that's all the references that I found during Garfield Spotlight. I absolutely love the changes that they gave him. Let me know how you feel about Garfield, and if I missed anything, don't be afraid to let me know in the comments below. And before I forget, and since I don't know when I'll be able to mention this, if we do get character interactions, you know how Plankton mentions how you shouldn't call him Sheldon? Well, what if when he interacts with Garfield, he yells, "Don't call me Doc Boy"? A call back to John's brother. I know it probably wouldn't make any sense, I just thought it'd be a cute nod. Anyways, I'll catch you guys next time.